Look around you. Everyone's talking, everyone's posting, everyone's desperate to be seen, but the loudest one in the room is usually the weakest. You want to win? You want to evolve? Then shut it all down. Disappear. Go ghost. Because the real transformation doesn't happen when you're surrounded by noise. It happens in silence, when no one's watching and every move is made with purpose. Most people walking through your life right now are nothing but distractions, dressed up as friends, companions, or supporters. They're not helping you grow, they're not sharpening you, they're keeping you in the same loop of mediocrity that they're trapped in themselves. And the worst part, they don't even realize it. They think they're being good friends by keeping you grounded, helping you relax, or making sure you don't change too much. And here's the truth. They're just scared that if you grow, you'll leave them behind. And deep down, you know that too. You can feel it. Every time you try to talk about your goals, your vision, your next move, the energy changes. They get uncomfortable. They joke about it. They try to steer the conversation back to gossip, comfort, or nonsense. That's not friendship. That's sabotage wrapped in small talk. People don't want to see you become better than them. That's the game. They'll support you just enough to keep you in their circle, but not enough to help you break out of it. They'll cheer when you make small moves, but the moment you start making serious progress, they go quiet. They stop calling, they stop congratulating you. Why? Because your ambition is a mirror that reflects their laziness. Your growth exposes their comfort, and people hate that. They'll smile to your face while secretly hoping you fail, because your success reminds them of their excuses. That's why cutting people off isn't rude, it's necessary. You're not being cruel, you're choosing your destiny over their distractions. Think about the time you waste keeping dead connections alive. Think about the energy you spend responding to pointless messages, meeting up just to kill time, and engaging in conversations that add zero value to your life. You do it because it's what you've always done. You feel guilty for pulling away. You don't want to seem arrogant, distant, or cold. But here's the reality. No one who actually wants to see you win will guilt trip you for working on yourself. The ones who belong in your life will understand the silence. The ones who don't will try to manipulate it. And the moment you realize this, ghosting becomes easy. Because you finally stop looking for permission to evolve. You don't owe anyone access to your mind, your time, or your energy, especially if they're not sharpening you. Most people talk like victims, think like cowards, and live like spectators. And if you keep surrounding yourself with that energy, it rubs off on you. It slows you down. It normalizes weakness. It turns ambition into shame and discipline into arrogance. That's how mediocrity wins. Not through force, but through comfort. And the people closest to you are the ones who unknowingly feed it. Ghosting isn't about hatred. It's about clarity. It's about finally seeing the truth behind your circle and realizing who's helping and who's holding you hostage. You can't become elite while being surrounded by average. You can't think like a lion while running with sheep. You have to make a choice. Your future or their feelings. You can't serve both. And the more time you spend explaining, apologizing, or justifying your moves, the longer you stay stuck in the same place with the same people doing the same things. Start looking at your circle like your battlefield. If they're not helping you train, they're getting you killed. If they're not building you up, they're breaking you down. You owe it to yourself to walk away from anyone who isn't sharpening your sword. Because at the end of the day, you're either around people who push you forward or people who pull you back. And if you don't have the discipline to ghost the ones who don't align with your mission, then you're not serious about winning. When you cut the noise and step into solitude, something inside you shifts. The constant opinions disappear. The fake smiles vanish. The fake validation dries up. And what's left? You. Just you. Your thoughts, your voice, your pain, your hunger, your truth. That's the point most people never reach because they're terrified of being alone with themselves. They need noise. They need distractions. They need people constantly around them to make them feel important, to make them feel seen, to avoid that terrifying silence. But that silence is exactly where strength is born. It's in the quiet where you find clarity because you're no longer performing for the crowd. You're no longer acting out a role. You're no longer adjusting yourself to fit into spaces that were never built for your greatness. In solitude, you confront the raw reality of who you are and what you want, and that's where the real transformation begins. But the reason most people stay stuck is because they're too busy being influenced. Every conversation, every post, every message they consume is shaping their mind. And what do they get in return? Confusion, hesitation, doubt. That's what happens when your brain is constantly absorbing low-level thinking from weak people. When you ghost the world, you shut off all the external programming. You stop thinking like everyone else. You stop chasing what they chase. You start asking real questions. What am I building? Why am I here? Who do I need to become? That level of focus doesn't come when you're surrounded by distractions. It comes in isolation, where nothing exists but your purpose and your grind. You can't expect to reach elite levels of power, discipline, and execution if your mind is constantly occupied by other people's nonsense. Solitude isn't just a preference. It's a requirement. It's where you learn to stop reacting and start creating. It's where you stop begging for attention and start demanding results. Everyone wants to be a beast, but no one wants to sit alone in the dark and face themselves. That's where the foundation is built. That's where the identity is forged. When you choose solitude, you learn to operate without applause. You learn to grind without validation. You learn to stay sharp without anyone watching. And that's what makes you unstoppable. Because when the rest of the world needs external motivation, you've already become your own fire. Most people are just noise. Their lives are loud but empty. They talk all day, post all day, seek attention all day, but what are they really building? Nothing. They're addicted to being seen but terrified of being alone. You have to be the opposite. You have to become so locked in, so laser focused, so deeply connected to your mission that ghosting everyone becomes natural. Not because you're antisocial, not because you hate people, but because you finally understand the value of your time, your focus, and your energy. Solitude isn't weakness. It's power under control. It's silence used as a weapon. It's the strategic withdrawal from the noise so you can return with more precision, more clarity, and more dominance. You have to disappear to develop. You have to go missing to reemerge with a sharper edge. The man who spends months in solitude, grinding, thinking, building, comes back with a presence that shakes the room, not because he was loud, but because he was gone. And when he returns, everyone knows something's changed. That's the power of stepping away. You're no longer just another voice in the crowd. You become the voice they can't ignore. Solitude gives you that. It's where you disconnect from the world to reconnect with your mission, and once you've built that internal fire in silence, no one can dim it. Time is the most valuable thing you have, and most people spend it like it's infinite, like it's cheap, like it's replaceable. They waste it scrolling, gossiping, arguing, partying, overthinking, and doing nothing of actual value. And then they complain about why their life doesn't change. They act like life is this endless game where they can keep hitting restart every Monday, every new month, every new year. But the truth is brutal. You're running out of time. Every second that passes is one you'll never get back. You can make more money, you can rebuild your body, you can find new friends, but you will never be able to reclaim a single wasted hour. And most of the people you interact with every day are the reason you keep burning your time without even realizing it. People invite you to distractions. They pull you into meaningless conversations. They drag you to places that serve no purpose other than killing time. And they don't even know they're doing it, because wasting time is their way of life. They live on autopilot, moving from one distraction to the next, just trying to fill the emptiness with stimulation. They see someone working hard and immediately want to interrupt it. They don't understand discipline, so they disrespect it. And if you let them into your space too often, you'll start becoming one of them. You'll start thinking like them. You'll start rationalizing laziness and calling it balance. But there's no balance when you're building an empire. There's no room for small talk when you're focused on legacy. You have to treat your time like a weapon, something you wield with precision, something you protect like it's your life. The people who waste your time won't feel the consequences. You will. They'll move on to the next distraction while you're stuck with the regret of another day gone. And once you finally realize that, everything changes. You stop answering pointless calls. You stop entertaining surface-level conversations. You stop showing up to events that don't move the needle. You become selfish with your time, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. Because if you're not in control of your schedule, someone else is. And that someone doesn't care about your goals. They don't care about your vision. They care about comfort, entertainment, and staying the same. That's not who you want in your life. That's not who you want in your circle. You want killers. You want builders. You want people who understand that every hour is a brick in the foundation of your future. When you finally start saying no to the time wasters, you'll feel it instantly. The silence, the isolation, the distance. But that's not a loss. It's a filter. The right people will respect your grind. The wrong people will call you selfish. Let them. Because the more space you create, the more time you gain. And with that time, you start building things they'll never understand. Discipline, skills, wealth, power. Those things don't come to people who are always available. They come to people who vanish, who disappear into the grind, who understand that every second they waste is another second someone else is getting ahead. And if you're not hungry enough to protect your time, you don't deserve what you say you want. Every call you don't take, every meetup you cancel, every pointless scroll you stop, it all adds up. Those moments are fuel for your focus. And in a world addicted to distraction, the man who controls his time controls his life. Because time, when used correctly, becomes a multiplier. It compounds, it turns hours into results, days into mastery, and months into transformation. But only if you take it seriously. Only if you guard it with your life. Because that's exactly what it is. Your life, counted out in minutes. So stop giving it to people who don't deserve it. Most people don't even realize how weak they've become because they've surrounded themselves with others who are just as soft, just as lost, and just as average. They all sit in the same circle, complaining about the same problems, making the same excuses, and calling it friendship. But it's not friendship. It's a trap. A silent, comfortable, deadly trap. When you're always around people who don't push you, who don't challenge you, who never hold you accountable, you start to think that your current level is acceptable. You start to believe that mediocrity is normal. You stop growing because everyone around you is doing the exact same thing. Nothing. That's why disappearing is necessary. You need to cut those emotional strings. You need to detach from people who drain your energy and distract you from your vision. And they might not even be bad people, but they're not the right people for who you're becoming. The guy who still talks about what he did 5 years ago, the friend who complains about his job but never does anything to change it, the group that spends more time gossiping than grinding, none of them belong in your future. And if you don't walk away, you'll start to mirror them. You'll start lowering your standards to keep their approval. You'll laugh at weak jokes, accept weak habits, and make weak decisions just to stay in the group. That's not loyalty. That's self-sabotage. You have to realize that evolution requires isolation. You can't grow if you're constantly trying to stay connected to people who aren't growing. You can't level up if your environment rewards comfort over challenge. There comes a time when you have to look around and ask yourself one hard question. Are these people helping me win or helping me stay the same? If the answer isn't a firm yes, then you already know what you need to do. Cut the cord, disappear, ghost them. Not out of hate, not out of ego, but out of discipline, out of necessity. Because your life is too valuable to waste trying to convince others to take it seriously. Your potential is too massive to be dimmed by someone else's laziness. The world doesn't owe you success, but it will reward you for discipline. It will reward you for sacrifice. And one of the greatest sacrifices is letting go of people who were good for who you were, but not who you're becoming. Detachment isn't about being heartless, it's about being focused. You're not abandoning anyone, you're choosing yourself. You're choosing growth. And the harsh truth is, some people will never understand that. They'll take your silence personally. They'll call you fake. They'll say you've changed. Let them. Because you're not here to be liked. You're here to be great. You're here to dominate. You're here to rewrite your story. And you can't do that while carrying dead weight. You can't build a future while babysitting the past. So you disconnect. You stop replying, you stop showing up, you stop explaining, and slowly you feel your power return, your focus sharpens, your energy increases, your momentum builds, and suddenly, the world opens up to you in a way it never did before. The reason it opens up is simple. You finally made room for greatness. You finally cleared the clutter. You finally stopped watering relationships that weren't helping you grow. And in that silence, you realize something powerful. You never needed them. You just needed to believe in yourself enough to walk alone. Because walking alone doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous. It means your fire isn't dependent on anyone else's fuel. And it means your drive comes from within. And once you tap into that, nobody can stop you. Not opinions, not emotions, not old friends, not your past. You become untouchable because you chose to elevate. And that's what winners do. They detach, they disappear, and they dominate. Most people live in reaction mode. They wake up and immediately reach for their phone. Messages, social media, emails. They allow the outside world to dictate their emotional state from the moment they open their eyes. That's how slaves live. You can't control anything around you if you're not in control of yourself first. If your day starts by reacting to other people's problems, drama, or attention seeking, then your mind is already hijacked before you've even had time to think. You're not living life on your terms. You're being dragged into a system designed to keep you distracted, emotional, and weak. The real ones, the ones who built empires, bodies, discipline, legacy, they operate differently. They begin their day in silence, in purpose, with intention. They understand that control isn't given, it's seized. And if you want to seize control of your life, you have to eliminate the noise. That noise often comes from people. People who don't respect your boundaries, people who think they're entitled to your time, people who text, call, and interrupt without thinking about your focus, your goals, your routine. These people don't care about your purpose because they don't even know their own. They just want attention. They want your validation. They want you to be just as available, lost, and directionless as they are. That's why going ghost is essential. It's not about being rude. It's about taking back your mind. You ghost people to regain control of your attention. You ghost people so you can build your fortress. Because if you don't, your time gets chipped away minute by minute, conversation by conversation, distraction by distraction, and soon you look up and wonder why you're stuck. Every time you respond to someone who doesn't move you forward, you trade your progress for their comfort. Every time you pick up that phone to answer a message that could have waited, you break your own rhythm. Every interruption weakens your discipline. That's why the highest performing individuals have the fewest people in their ear. They don't explain. They don't apologize. They don't feel guilty for choosing themselves because they know the power of uninterrupted time. That's when clarity happens. That's when mastery develops. That's when confidence is built. And most people will never experience it because they're too busy pleasing others who aren't even on the same path. It takes a different level of mental toughness to protect your peace. It takes real strength to say no, to go dark, to disappear when everyone else is begging for connection. But this world isn't going to hand you greatness. You have to carve it out of your own silence. You have to turn your back on small talk, endless notifications, and fake friendships. You have to build your day around your mission, not other people's nonsense. And that requires isolation. Not forever, but long enough to reshape your identity. Long enough to stack wins, elevate your habits, and rise above the noise. Because when you emerge from that darkness, you're not the same. You're sharper, colder, more focused. You don't flinch when people pull on your time anymore. You've trained yourself to guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. Control is about discipline. It's about who gets access to your energy, who earns a piece of your mind, who you allow into your space. Most people just hand that out for free and wonder why they feel anxious, tired, and behind. You've got to be ruthless with your attention. You've got to protect it like a lion guards its territory. Because if you don't, someone else will feed on it. And they won't leave you with anything but regret. So you stay ghosted. You stay locked in. You keep your circle tight, your routine sacred, and your focus unshaken. Because when you control your time, you control your destiny. The truth is, your real transformation doesn't start until you vanish. Not halfway, not taking a break. Full ghost mode. You disappear from the social circles, the distractions, the validation loops. You disconnect from the world that keeps pulling your strings like a puppet. And in that silence, something brutal happens. You meet yourself. The raw, unfiltered version. No noise to hide behind. No friends to distract you. No likes, no comments, no messages to stroke your ego. Just you, your thoughts, your fears, and your ambition. It's uncomfortable, even painful for most people, because they built their identity around how others see them. But that's exactly why ghosting works. You can't level up while still clinging to who you used to be. You can't evolve while being available to everyone. Your next level demands a version of you that most people haven't seen yet, and that version can only be created in the dark. People fear being alone because they associate it with weakness. But true power is born in isolation. The beast is built in solitude. When you ghost the world, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your thoughts. You're no longer a character in someone else's movie. You're the writer, the director, and the lead. You stop asking for opinions because you start trusting your own judgment. You don't second guess yourself because you're not looking for confirmation. And in that space, discipline becomes your only companion. You wake up and do the work because there's no one around to impress but yourself. You grind without applause. You sacrifice without recognition. That's when it gets real. That's when it counts. Because if you can stay consistent when no one is watching, you're already ahead of the pack. The average person can't go a day without validation. They post something and check it 10 times. They need responses, approval, attention, anything to feel like they matter. That's weakness. That's emotional dependence, and the system loves it because it makes you predictable and controllable. But when you ghost everyone, you break that chain. You become independent. You don't care who's watching. You're too busy building. Your days are structured around growth, not gossip. You train your body, your mind, your habits. You read, you plan, you move with purpose. You don't let your emotions run wild because you face them in the silence. You've confronted the darkness instead of avoiding it with noise. That ghost phase becomes your incubation period. Like a caterpillar in a cocoon, you go in ordinary and come out unrecognizable. Stronger, smarter, sharper. People will notice. They'll say you've changed, and they'll be right. Because you burned the old version of yourself to the ground. You've rebuilt from scratch, not to impress anyone, but to finally align with your true potential. And once you've tasted that level of control, you never go back. You don't crave attention anymore, you crave results. You don't miss the party, you miss the peace. You don't need to be seen, you need to be unstoppable. And you know that can only happen in silence. Most people don't make it through ghost mode because they need noise to feel alive. But the ones who do, they come out monsters. Laser focused, ruthless with their time, immune to distractions. They walk into rooms differently because they carry the weight of real discipline. And that's what ghosting is really about. Not disappearing to run away, but disappearing to rebuild, to rewire your brain, to reset your standards, to step into the version of yourself that doesn't seek permission, doesn't chase validation, and doesn't need company to feel complete. Because once you've mastered that level of solitude, you've unlocked a weapon most people will never touch. Self-control. And that's the foundation of every real win in life. When you ghost everyone, you're not running from the world. You're rising above it. You're stepping into a phase where the noise stops and the real work begins. No distractions, no validation, no unnecessary conversations, just you and the mission. You don't owe explanations, apologies, or updates to anyone who isn't building with you. This is how winners are made. In silence, in solitude, with unmatched discipline. While the rest stay loud, lost, and distracted, you go dark, you go deep, and you come back a different breed. Because the man who chooses isolation over imitation, clarity over chaos, and growth over gossip, that man becomes untouchable. So ghost the world, build your empire, and when you return, don't explain a thing. Let the results speak louder than anything you could ever say.